The discussion topic today is, should Marathon have aggression-based matchmaking? This is something that exists in Arc Raiders. It's a very unique matchmaking style. I'm trying to think of any other games that do it, but you kind of need games that PvP is optional for to even have this, because it's matching people on whether you shoot them or not. So I do think it's pretty specific to the extraction genre. And someone's like, oh, why even talk about this? It's not even relevant for Marathon. Marathon's going to be PvP. I do agree with that. I think it's interesting to talk about after 450 hours in Arc Raiders and seeing the success of Arc Raiders and seeing the player retention of Arc Raiders. And I don't think we should ignore that Bungie is definitely watching Arc Raiders and made many improvements on their game based on feedback when people were playing Arc Raiders and Marathon side by side. Prox chat and solo queues were one of those things. So I do think it's worth chatting about, and I do think it's kind of a cool topic because I like talking about it because it's an interesting matchmaking system and there's lots of pros and cons. Right. We're going to go through the pros and cons first, and then we're going to see if any of it's really applicable to Marathon. The pros of aggressive-based matchmaking. If you don't know what aggressive-based matchmaking is and you've not played Arc Raiders, let's start there first. If you shoot someone in Arc Raiders and you do damage to a player, it progressively puts you in lobbies where eventually everyone's just shooting on sight. If you don't shoot anyone for a number of lobbies and you keep playing like a PvE player and just looting and taking on enemies, like AI enemies, it puts you in friendly lobbies where you can literally gather around the extract and sing Kumbaya, right? And not even joking, people start pulling out guitars, okay? And that's what aggressive-based matchmaking is. It's very dynamic and it puts you into lobbies based on what you've been doing in the previous games. The pros for this. As much as I'm slightly against aggressive-based matchmaking, I do think it has done good numbers for player retention in Arc Raiders. I'll give you the example. I fell in love with Escape from Tarkov, but there were many times, and everyone's like, oh, streamers ruining everything. I did not go full-time in streaming till 3 years ago, and I've been doing this for a decade. So I was like you once. I got home from work, I was tired, I had to cook dinner and clean the house and do other stuff, and when I got online, I didn't want to sweat my ass off. And even though I loved Escape from Tarkov, there are many nights that I just couldn't be bothered because of how sweaty it was, and I was going to fail. I think Arc Raiders helps with that problem with player retention, because if you fail enough and don't shoot people, you get put in very friendly lobbies where it's very easy to progress. And I think that extraction shooters put a lot of people off because of how harsh it is and losing your gear, and aggressive-based matchmaking actually counters probably one of the biggest barriers to getting people into the genre, is that feeling of, I've just lost my gear, I've lost my gear again, I've lost my gear again, I no longer want to play the game, I want to put it down. And I went through this whole process with Tarkov. I think I gave up on Tarkov 2 or 3 times. It took me a year or 2 to even like the game and the genre. So I do think it can help with player retention, especially when it's people's first extraction game. And on that note, I think it's a very casual way to get people into the genre. It's much, much easier to progress with friendly-based matchmaking because you're only having to worry about the enemies. And enemies are predictable, AI enemies are predictable. They're easy to counter eventually. And then if you're not worrying about PvP, then you can just blast through content and level up all the things you need to level up, get your quests done, and that kind of stuff. That can be a con too, by the way, but I think a lot of people consider a pro when it's their first extraction shooter, that it makes it quite casually friendly. Embark's reason for doing this, I actually did a recent interview about aggressive-based matchmaking, and it's not the only thing that's part of their matchmaking, but they said the main reason for it is to give players an experience that they want. That players who don't want a PvP are going to get less of it, and players that want a PvP are going to get more of it, and trying to appeal to both sides. I think that's both a pro and a con, because I do live by the statement, a game for everyone is a game for no one. and you kind of need to pick a side, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when it comes to the cons. But that's Embark's reason, is I want to give people the experience they're looking for in the extraction shooter. Another pro would be social interaction, and Arc Raiders has an incredible amount of social interaction. I think some of that has been spurred on by the aggressive-based matchmaking and allowing people to have more conversations and just randomly meet people in the match. I think doing that allows Embark and extraction shooters to make more complex puzzles that the community need to work together to solve. Like, I think without aggressive bass, or maybe you let me know. I think the experience for fighting the big bosses, the queens and the matriarchs, would be very, very different if there was no aggressive based matchmaking. Like, sometimes I do want to fight the queen and the matriarch in more of a PvE setting, so I'll be a good boy for a little bit and make sure I have mostly friendly players. And other times though, I actually do like fighting the queen with PvP, you know, fully on. I like going with the team, trying to wipe the other teams and trying to see if you can achieve it. Like, it is a completely different feeling. But I do think aggressive based matchmaking allows for other options, knowing that people are going to be a little bit more friendly. I think you can have more complex puzzles when generally people are friendly. I think it helps for storytelling and people who want to get into the world and the lore. Who was I talking to about this? And we did an interview with someone from chat last stream, and they were talking about like Grimoire cards and picking up lore pieces, and it's like, that's just not going to be really possible in Marathon, right? People are just going to shoot you. You can't sit there with a lore reading, right? Which is fine. It's a different game. But aggressive-based matchmaking does allow you to explore the world more, and it's probably one of the most complaints about Marathon is people are really keen for the universe and the lore and like the world building, and they want to be in that without being shot. So it does allow more casual exploration of the world without PvP. The last pro that we've come up with is, I think aggressive-based matchmaking is a much better option than adding a PvE only version of the game. If Arc Raiders added a PvE only version of the game, I think it would drop off quicker than how it's going right now, which it hasn't dropped off yet. It's maintaining its numbers. I think if you divide the player base and put them in a separate playlist, I think it would impact that. So aggressive-based matchmaking is definitely a better option than making a fully PvE only mode. All right. Cons. What's the negatives of having this system? I personally think it's a loss of tension and magic. I really like the tension of not knowing if someone's friendly or not friendly. And I like the idea that this is a weapon. That is the fun part about extraction shooters. Like, if you've got bad intentions, can you convince someone that you're good? I mean, that's people look down on that kind of behavior, but it's a valid strategy, okay? Like, can you convince them that you're a good person, you should work together, right? The fact that you can use your microphone as a weapon, I just find really interesting as a concept. And if you know what lobby you're in, there's no more reason to talk. And you see that a lot in Arc Raider lobbies. People are just running around. They're not talking at all. They're disregarding any tension from other players, and they're just running right past you and gobbling up the loot and then moving on. Oh yeah, you want some of this? You want some of this? So I think that's probably the biggest issue, is that you lose that the tension and fear of other players, which is kind of important for the flow of the round. The other con would be you can manipulate matchmaking. We do this all the time in Arc Raiders. You manipulate matchmaking to get friendly lobbies when you need them and when you need to level up. And then people can do that to wipe a whole lobby. We kind of end up doing this by accident in Arc Raiders. Like, if I've been grinding like workbenches, like I typically play friendly in solo lobbies, we often find like our first match back when I team up in Stella, which is more PvP orientated, people are just generally more friendly, and we end up killing a lot of people, and they're very unhappy about it because they think they're in like friendly lobbies basically. But people can intentionally do that. Like, okay, I'm going to get into a friendly lobby, like on the Queen, on the Harvester, in the Matriarch, and like take out players who are trying to do PvE. So there is an aspect of manipulating it once you know about it. I personally, and this is like the biggest thing like that makes making Arc Raiders really not enjoyable for me sometimes, it really does divide the community into PvEers and PvPers. And that hurts me because I'm right bang in the middle. I want to do both. I want to sometimes chat to people, but I just don't want to chat to people all the time. I also want to do a little, like I want there to be a villain that I can chase down and hunt and shoot. And I also want to just meet random players and have a good time as well. So unfortunately, I think it does create very distinct communities. And here's the truth. The angriest players are the PvEers. I'm sorry, they are. If you go into a PvE lobby and start shooting people, that is where I hear the most homophobic, racist slurs. As someone's like, I'm only doing a quest. Homophobic slur, racist slur, F you, F this. If you're in a PvP lobby, they just don't talk. You just shoot them, they're dead, and they're like, all right, they just give up, and they just go away. And it does create a big division in the community for it. And same with making content. If I make PvP, like I made a PvP content where I was pretending to be a zombie and hitting people with a hammer, and the majority of comments were negative, like, nah, this is not funny. I can't believe you would do that. I can't believe you would do that. I was like, this is Team Stella Montes. You hear people talk shit all the time PvP. You do get some of it in PvP. I would argue I hear more toxicity in PvE players though. If you shoot them. I think on a whole, yeah, sure, some people would start talking smack in PvP. Sure, you get some of that. But I think more people have sworn at me in PvE lobbies if I'm doing PvP, right? Like if I've gone into that lobby and started shooting people. I think the other con for aggressive-based matchmaking is there's no real incentive for PvP, right? Like, without doubt, the meta for Arc Raiders is to be friendly. If you want to max out your workbenches, if you want to get the most money, if you want to get the most blueprints, it pays way more to be friendly than it does to do PvP. And so it does impact how you play the game. Like, when I first started playing, if I saw someone shooting someone else and I was being friendly at first, I would go hunt them down. But now I'm like, well, that's going to impact my matchmaking. So, and I've got maybe I've got a video I want to record. So I want to go farm explosives so I can go take out the matriarch. So now I'm like, oh, I'll let that guy go. And so you lose some of that organic gameplay and people start playing differently so their matchmaking's not impacted. Right, so this is my issue with aggressive-based matchmaking and how it impacts how you play the game and pretty much the level design. So if I am not in a friendly lobby, this is a really high loot area. There's a camera here that I'm already alerting, which would alert to people that I'm going to jump in the lower area. I can take a different way up. I can use this zip. Oh, hello. Okay.
I thought you were gonna kill me.
No, I'm not gonna kill you.
I thought you backed me to go. I would kill you though.
I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of making a video about aggressive-based matchmaking.
I'm sorry, man.
It's alright, thank you. Hold on a second. I'm literally making a video about aggressive-based matchmaking and using this as an example, but I'm not shooting no one. Alright, round 2. Video disproven in real time. No, it's proven in real time. This is the exact reason why I don't like it. So if you are in a PvP lobby, when you approach this high area of loot, you have to be careful with the camera. You can't just run and jump in there because you're going to get pinched. You have to be careful about taking this because it's just going to alert everyone to where you're going. If you go to the top, people might hear the zip. This door could be locked. They're going to hear you come in there. So often, rather than going through there and making noise, you might want to go over this way and see if any arc... You might want to go around here and see if there's any turrets inside to see if anyone's inside. You might want to go check and listen for this side and see if you hear any noises, right? So you have to play this area in a certain way if there's any perceived threat of PvP. If there's no perceived threat like this, you can just run here and you can just loot.
That blueprint, please.
You can just run here and you can just loot, right? You don't have to worry about anyone. And so what the game becomes then is whoever has the best spawn and whoever spawns in with the max amount of time wins.
On the other side of this bridge.
These motherfuckers are just chatting away.
Yeah.
And then you just run away from the PV. That's every single map area in extraction shooters is designed like this. It is designed for there to be PvP threat. And if you can ignore it, all the game becomes is, do you have the best spawn? Yes, no, then you win. The way Arc Raiders is designed, all the tough enemies are outside of buildings. Once you get into buildings, it's PvP threat. And if there's no PvP, there's no threat. Right. Let's talk about, now that we've spoken about aggressive base matchmaking, will it apply to Marathon? Will it work in Marathon? Should you have it in Marathon? This is where you can jump in with the comments and see what your thoughts are on it. People who have played a bit more Marathon than I have been talking about the factions and how they're differently, like some are more PvP orientated factions and the story progresses for that. So, you know, you could have an aggressive base matchmaking, but people would have to like jump into PvP to get some of the story unlocked through the factions, right? And I think that's like Arachne. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're going to be more encouraged to take on other runners. So there would be some friction there. Of course, we've spoken previously about the ranked mode, and there kind of already is that system in place, and it is an opt-in system. You're going to have to buy a holo tag to get in there. You're going to have a certain gear score to get in there, and it's already PvP incentivized. So I think it's pretty reasonable to say, well, we don't need aggressive base matchmaking. We have a rank system that's, I'm assuming, going to bundle all the sweat lords into one playlist. Because I'm assuming that you're only going to be playing other people who are doing the ranked mode. That's the point of kind of like ranked. Even though Arc Raiders doesn't work like that. Like you can be doing the ranked mode in Arc Raiders and be up against people who are just going about their business doing quests. So yeah, I think you'd find to argue like it's already got a ranked mode. There's no point in having it. I think a lot of people will say, well, it's just PvP centric already, whereas Arc Raiders was much more PvE centric. Its development was in PvE. I think the enemies in Arc Raiders also created more of a PvE environment of like fighting giant robots, whereas Marathon, from what I've seen, doesn't really have that yet. And so there might not be a huge value in teaming up. And like, what's the point in teaming up if there's nothing to take on, right? Like you kind of need the big bad thing to take on to encourage like social interaction. And we might see that in Marathon when it comes to like the end game maps, the Marathon ship and that kind of stuff, but I don't know about it yet. I think though, where this conversation might pop up in is already the videos we're seeing about people wanting a PvE only option. I made a video about Paul Tassi and talking about that and even Aztecross. I even got to mention in Aztecross's video, I was saying like they want to see a PvE option mode in Marathon in the future if it does well. And I think that's where some of the value will lie because Bungie's history is a PvE game and there's lots of Destiny players who hate extraction shooters and have no interest in Marathon. And maybe, just like Arc Raiders introduced the extraction genre to a lot of new people, maybe aggressive base matchmaking would open the door to them and allow them to try to enjoy Marathon. Bungie players enjoying a game? Right, I tell you what my hope is. About aggressive base matchmaking. I don't want to see it in Marathon, okay? But my hope is this. Is that I know Marathon's going to be more PvP focused, but I hope there is some social PvP interaction. Even if it's only for solo players, I'm completely fine for like to jump on a game and like solo experience be completely different from like a trio experience. Like solo, slightly more friendly. Occasionally people talk to you. Occasionally people team up. And then nearly all your duos and trios is just PvP shoot on sight. Like I think that's kind of a nice balance. I hope there is some mechanic, some boss, some dungeon, some thing that's really tough that encourages you to use the microphone to work with others. Because I really do like that aspect of extraction shooters. And I want to see that tension there. And I would like to work with other players in Marathon. I don't think it's going to happen. I think most of the social interactions probably going to be rooks. And if another team wants to let you live as a rook, but I would love to see some classic Bungie puzzles, world events, bosses that might encourage solo players to team up and do it. That'd be fun. All right. A like and a comment, greatly appreciate it. I'll read your thoughts down below. If you want to see the live streams, they're listed down below in the playlist because they're currently unlisted. And I will see you next time.